Let's start with categorical variables. What we're looking at here is the Excel sheet for the number of words I have for Russian in Duolingo in various categories. This is the same data that I started with in the very first, in the opening set of videos. We actually have a couple of choices here, but let's start with one. Let's just start by highlighting some stuff and seeing what graphs are recommended. So I'll start, I'm going to highlight. Notice I'm not highlighting total. We're going to come back to that after a couple more videos, we're going to come back to that and I'll show you why. But I am highlighting the labels, although if you don't, you can make adjustments, and we'll show you that in a little bit. But let's just take a look at what kind of graphs and charts Excel recommends. So Excel recommends what they're calling a clustered bar. Excel calls a bar chart when the bars are horizontal, and a column chart when the bars are vertical. They also recommend a pie chart. There's a reason why Excel is recommending these types of charts, and that's because this is what you do with categorical variables. You use bar charts or pie charts. So let's first pick this column chart. I'll call it a bar chart, despite Excel's statement to the contrary. So we get, let me make this a little smaller so we can see it all. And it's covering the data, but we get this bar chart, right? And if you, just like the data, it tells you, look, most of my words are still strong, and there's a good handful that are overdue, but in the pretty good and the time to practice categories, there's not so much. I want to show you something here. I'm going to make another chart, bar chart, but instead of using the raw frequencies, I'm going to use the relative frequencies. So quick Excel note, this works on Windows machines at least, is if you want to make a graph and highlight data that are not adjacent, like this part of column A and then this part of column C, instead of using the shift as you move the arrow in or cursor around, you use the control button. So I'm holding control down, select relative frequency, back to shift, and now I can cover all of them. I believe on a Mac, you can, instead of control, use there's another key that you use in its place. Let's make the same graph, and I want you to compare the two. And just as before, I'll make this a little smaller, and we'll put them side by side so we can compare. And let's try to make them the same size so we get a better comparison. And what I'd like you to think about doing is maybe pausing for a minute, pause this video, pause right here, and think about what are the differences between these in terms of the way the two bar graphs look. I'll pause for a moment too. Okay, I'm back. Hopefully that gave you the space to pause. The only real difference I notice is that the vertical axis for the raw frequencies are numerical and they're percentages for the relative frequencies. But the shape of the graph is identical. When we're making charts or graphs with categorical variables, then the graphs are going to be the same whether we use the raw frequency or the relative frequency. One last point. We can't always make a pie chart with some data, but we can sometimes, and Excel recommended it for this data set. So let's see why. Let's make the pie chart first. So I'm going to just go back to the raw frequencies. Let's make the pie chart. And there's the pie chart. And notice it's got a little legend, so we can read what that means. This pie chart makes sense, and it's telling us all the same message. The blue area is very, very large, the vast majority. Those are words that are still strong. The yellow piece is sizable. That's what's overdue. And the other two pieces aren't that big. Now, why could I make a pie chart with this? What is a pie chart good for? Well, the pie represents a whole. And what we have, the whole are the total number of words that I've encountered in Russian in Duolingo. And what we have in our data is a division of that whole into multiple non-overlapping parts. In that situation, you can make a pie chart. One of the problems with pie charts is that they're not the most precise. The bar charts and the column charts are more precise. They give you actual values. So all I see here is that my words that are still strong is very large. The other two graphs both tell me something about how significant that is. In a later video, when we do some fine tuning, I'll show you how to add that data back into your pie charts. In the next video, we're going to look at quantitative variables, and there are multiple choices you have depending on the kind of data you have. We'll go through that in the next video.